Let's talk about Laver Cup. It is Sunday night. Team World just beat Team Europe. Taylor Fritz, MVP. What a weekend for Taylor. I know I said that I was going to cover Laver Cup on an episode of 3. That is still the plan, but we can't record until Tuesday morning, and I did not want to wait that long, especially because I've gotten not just YouTube comments, a lot of personal messages and texts, really like a lot, about my throwaway comments at the start of the mailbag over the weekend, where I was just trying to do some housekeeping, and I called Laver Cup an exhibition, and I said I usually don't do a whole podcast on it, which is true. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. And then, there was a lot of like, whoa, Laver Cup, what's with the slander here? Well, I've always liked Laver Cup. Like, I've never had anything bad to say about Laver Cup. I guess what is true, however, is that merely referring to it as an exhibition is taken as a slight. It is as if you are diminishing an event. I don't know if that is really how the word should be taken, but that's how the word is taken in tennis, and everybody has a different definition of what exhibition means. But for whatever anybody's definition is, and again, it's all over the map, for most events such as the Laver Cup, they try to shed that label. They believe that label is a negative label with a bad connotation, and I admit it. So there's a conversation to be had there, but I like the Laver Cup. Everybody thought I don't like the Laver Cup because I called it an exhibition. No, I like it. I like it. I've often not felt compelled to dig into the X's and O's and to break it down in my regular mode of analysis, given the fact that I have always preferred to enjoy it as an entertainment product, which they've created in an incredible way. I mean, Roger Federer's vision, and it's been always, as always, fun to see Roger do his media appearances with the Serve podcast, with Tennis Channel, and hear about what he has to say about the event and how he views it. And the goal all along for Roger was to create interaction between players on the tour who are isolated from each other, and you say, okay, now we're going to be teammates. They're going to compete alongside of each other. And then you're going to bring in past generations. You're going to make them captains and co-captains and ambassadors for the event. And you get that cross-generational interaction as well, which was particularly fruitful this year because we had a little freshener of the captains with Yannick Noah and Andre Agassi after a 5-year run for Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe. So that was a good, I think, shot in the arm for the event this year. But that has all worked beautifully. It has from the start. It's yielded great results. And the investment is there. They've been in great venues. The World Feed telecasts are very good. They still draw good fields, although it's not what it once was in that category. And it is intense, and the effort is there. And that's what everybody always comes back with. If you were to call Laver Cup an exhibition, and I want to kind of get into more on that, but if you were to call Laver Cup an exhibition, and people, for those who take issue with that, they say, well, aren't you watching? Look how hard they're trying. Look how much they care. And yeah, I don't deny that. I mean, they tried hard at the Six Kings exhibition in Saudi Arabia because there was $5 million on the line. It's still an exhibition. It's still I don't know when effort became the barometer for that. There's $250,000 on the line for the winners, meaning every player of, in this case, Team World gets an extra $250,000. And I think if you're out there not only playing for $250K for yourself, which frankly is not like a massive number that's going to blow anybody away, but when you are accountable for everybody's $250,000, meaning all of your teammates, I think that adds a little bit extra. But also it's about tradition, right? And the tone was set very early on, and this was a priority for Roger, something that he's also discussed. The tone was set that this is a highly competitive event. This is not about hits and giggles. This is competition. And I don't think it takes much, to be honest. I really don't. When you have these highly competitive athletes and you give them enough incentives and you tell them, hey, this is for real, let's go, I don't think it takes much for them to get into that mode. And they have certainly been able to get into that mode easily. The captains also set the tone. I mean, Andre Agassi is as competitive as they come by all accounts. I mean, look at how he's dove into even pickleball. If you've ever seen him play pickleball, you know how much he cares about anything he's competing in. And boy, did he bring the juice for Team World. I mean, he really brought it. So there is a lot of desire to win. There's no doubt about that. As far as I have considered it an exhibition over the years, I have always considered it, if that the best exhibition by far, the ultimate exhibition, the exemplary exhibition. It is not a regular event, and it's not trying to be. But the reason why I have been vocal, at the very least, when it comes to not taking the results in the same way that you'd take a regular tour result, is because there are a bunch of different factors going in here that are not one-to-one with any regular tour event. The invitations are partially arbitrary. Matchups are handpicked by the captains. They do not play third sets. There are no rankings points on the line. Why wasn't Lorenzo Musetti playing for Team Europe? He was asked because he's trying to get to the ATP finals for the first time in his career. So he's in China playing a 250. Rankings points facilitate, at the bare minimum, rankings points go a very long way in facilitating meaning for all of the matches that we witness year round. We know that you have to stay basically inside the top 100 in order to earn direct entry into slams, which is so important. We know that you have to be inside, let's say, the top 70 roughly to get into Masters 1000s. We know that you have to be inside the top 32 to be seeded at majors. We know that you have to be in the top 8 to make the ATP finals. We know that when you retire, your career high ranking is going to be the number, for most players, the number that is ultimately slapped onto your resume in the very top line. You are going to be defined by it. So in all of these ways, rankings orient the importance of events year round. Laver Cup doesn't have rankings. And why can't it have rankings points on the line? Well, because of what I just talked about, especially the invitations. They're arbitrary. It's a massive conflict of interest. You can't put rankings points on offer because the right to play the event is not a full merit system. So that wouldn't be in line with the bylaws of the rankings. The overall tie score affects psychology. It feels very different if you take the court and your team is up 6-zip versus if your team is down 6-zip. And that score may have had nothing to do with you. You just take the court under that circumstance, and that has a big effect on what the psychology of the match is. Well, that's different from a tour event. The coaching is vastly different. Not only do you have your captain on your bench in your ear, but you have a bunch of obviously fellow touring teammates who are also constantly in your ear. Not to say that that makes the results mean less or more, just to say it's totally different. It's a different atmosphere. Is there historical significance? Do the results have staying power? Well, maybe one day, but right now, no, I don't think so. I don't think Laver Cup will ever come up when discussing a player's resume. I don't think it matters how well they do or what they do. Fritz just had, on paper, the best weekend of his career. But when he retires, the Indian Wells title is going to mean a lot. And the fact that he got in the top 5 a couple times is going to mean, finished in the top 5 last year and is knocking on the door for another top 5 finish this year. That's going to matter a lot. And a U.S. Open final, he didn't even win the tournament. That's going to matter a lot in discussing Taylor Fritz. The total number of titles he's won, that's going to matter a lot. Laver Cup does not have that sticking power, that historical significance. So that is a little bit different, I think, from a regular event as well. But it does count in the stats, in the head-to-heads, which is something that I do disagree with. I always have. I felt that it's a different thing. So, when I'm commentating or when I'm doing a podcast and part of the head-to-head is Laver Cup, I always feel the need to just say it was Laver Cup. So Taylor Fritz has won the last 6 matches against Alexander Zverev. But if I have time to provide a little bit of additional context, I will say that 2 of those were Laver Cup, because I don't find it to be the same as the Stuttgart final and the U.S. Open quarterfinal and the Wimbledon round of 16 in 2024. But for what it's worth, I also disagree with Davis Cup counting as tour wins. I see it as separate. I don't like that it counts towards your overall win total, and I don't like that it goes into the counting stats. I just think it's a separate thing. But I think Davis Cup is a good parallel because Davis Cup over the years, similar to what I just described, there are a lot of circumstances that make Davis Cup different from a regular tour event, but it still was something very meaningful in tennis. Now, part of that was national pride, which Laver Cup has a smidge of. Like, to be honest with you, I don't think there's a lot of Team World's patriotism, given that it's Team World. Maybe there's some Europe pride. I know that there's a lot of Euro pride for a competition like Ryder Cup, which Tony Godsick has said many times is kind of the model for Laver Cup. The most successful version of Laver Cup is Ryder Cup in golf. But from a tennis one-to-one, you could say, well, that's true all about Davis Cup, but Davis Cup has always meant a lot to tennis. And I think Laver Cup can be Davis Cup. Now, in terms of historical significance, something new has no chance to have the gravitas steeped in tradition that something as old as Davis Cup has. Davis Cup is something where the record books are very much cherished, and I think for a lot of players, they feel like it is a significant box on the resume to check off, to win it. And again, Laver Cup, it doesn't really have that national pride, but here's where I think it can be similar. Davis Cup is not an exhibition. It's also not a regular tour event. It's just Davis Cup. And this is where I'll say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm cool with not calling Laver Cup an exhibition because it feels as if it's elevated above that term, which for some reason in tennis, we've decided is somewhat derogatory. Like it or not. I'm happy to just call Laver Cup Laver Cup. I refuse to say that Fritz beating Alcaraz at Laver Cup is the same as Fritz beating Alcaraz on the tour. I think it's different. But I'm also happy to shed the exhibition label. Happy to. So, sorry. From now on, I will not. I will say Laver Cup is Laver Cup. It is one of one. It is unique. It is a thing unto itself. That is where I will stand. All right, so maybe that'll satisfy some. Or maybe I'll, because I'm shifting over towards the middle, I'll have both sides mad at me. Who knows? Quick takeaways. Again, we're going to cover this on 3. So I'm going to run through this really fast. Taylor Fritz, MVP. Back-to-back top 5 wins in straight sets. Ultimately, the Alcaraz win, I think, will carry a lot more weight moving forward for him than the Zverev win, considering He had already beaten Zverev a bunch of times in a row. Of course, Zverev was the clincher. But against Carlos, it was the best I've ever seen Taylor play. It was the highest level of tennis I've seen him achieve, playing with incredible freedom, unbelievable conviction, just fearlessness on the big points, going after his forehand, or revving up the speeds off of that wing without missing, and coming forward. Because in slow conditions, even with the power that Fritz possesses, even when he's, minding his court position and getting those first strikes in, you know that Carlos is going to chase some balls down. And Fritz was very willing to knock balls away up at the net to neutralize Alcaraz's defense. Fritz was going after his second serve returns way more than he normally does. It's not something that Taylor usually loves to do. Fritz on the second return, he kind of likes to get the rally going. Wasn't doing that as much. He was really taking big rips. Maybe not into dangerous targets, but taking big rips and then really trying to crush the fourth ball. He was going down the line more often with his backhand as well to really keep Carlos honest. Agassi said that the priority there was don't get behind. Don't get behind in the point. Alcaraz's offensive firepower and skill set versus Taylor Fritz's movement, that's not a matchup that we want. Even though Fritz, again, as a defender, when he gets to the ball, actually does quite well, right? Still, it's not a matchup you want. So don't get behind in the points. That means you amp up the speed of the rally balls, you pass up no opportunities to take charge. It is the only way that we've really seen players beat Carlos Alcaraz consistently. It is not something that is like realistic for most players to execute consistently at all, which is why Alcaraz doesn't lose very often. But it's certainly kind of the way to go against Carlos. Crush everything, red line, offense, 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 offense. That's what Fritz was able to do. Carlos was a little bit off range on the forehand, which did provide Taylor a little bit of relief. We'll get to Zverev later. Joao Fonseca, he played Kabuli on day one. Kind of the day one matchup that I had circled. And look, I'll just say Fonseca, that is a spot where his stomach gets tested. Like Roger Federer's in the stands, Andre Agassi's on the bench. You've got just a lot of eyes kind of checking you out. New kid on the block. What do we got here? That is a very pressurized situation. Like, I don't discount that at all. Fonseca, as soon as he got comfortable after the first 20 minutes of the match, he got hot and stayed hot. It was impressive. The conditions being so slow definitely kind of helped him. It looked like he had all day to kind of load up his power. And he obviously has no problem hitting through the court. There are never going to be conditions that are too slow for Fonseca to hit through. So I thought the conditions looked really, really good on him. As they do Taylor Fritz, by the way. I mean, this hard court was very Indian Wells-like. Not quite as high bouncing, but very slow and gritty. Again, gives Fritz a lot of time on the ball to kind of execute his ball striking to the best of his ability. But I don't think Fritz, at the same time, this is a guy who turned his season around by winning Stuttgart. It's the fastest conditions maybe all year long, up there with Turin. So I don't think, I think Fritz is pretty surface agnostic, or court speed agnostic, I should say. But still, I think the grittiness of the hard court, I think he likes it. Alex de Minaur, volleying was awesome. I mean, he is such a good volleyer. Can I just shout that out? He's a guy who obviously is not going to have as easy a time hitting through these conditions, but the way he's able to move inside the court to take time away and then come forward, the offense was not difficult for him to access. Now, obviously, with his speed and his toughness, part of it is, of course, utilizing the speed of the court on the defensive end for de Minaur, but that's not the main thing that stood out to me. I just thought his net rushing was tremendous in his two singles wins, and of course he won his doubles as well. So Fritz was definitely the MVP for Worlds, given the caliber of opponents that he knocked out. But Minaur comes in second because he racked up a lot of points. Andre Agassi, I've already mentioned it, on the bench. You know, I've talked about what a special mind I feel he is. But how about the energy? Like, that is really meaningful. There is no chance. I want to talk more about this with Joel and Amy, but, you know, you cannot fall asleep for a second out on the court. You know, concentration and energy is never going to be a problem when you have Andre on the bench supplying the competitive energy that he was able to supply. Team Europe takeaways. Didn't really have many. I know I just went through a few Worlds guys. Biggest one was Zverev. So I thought he displayed a lot of toughness against Taylor Fritz. Like, he battled very hard. That part was admirable. But there's still no confidence. I mean, you can say he got passive on the big points, and I think that is true, and I think that cost him. I mean, look at the match point. I think it was 6-4 in the tiebreak. Short forehand cross court. Even shorter forehand cross court. Even shorter forehand cross court. And then Fritz is able to find a forehand approach, finish with the volley. It's like, whoa, like 3 in a row, way too short. Kind of Zverev's bad qualities in a nutshell you could see on not just that match point, but of course that Laver Cup clinching point. But, you know, more so than that, like passive misses sometimes. Zverev going into lockdown mode in some of these longer, more physical exchanges, and actually just missing neutral trades. We're not used to that. But then the other interesting wrinkle in the Fritz match was his serve speed was down. And he's been talking about a back thing that's been bothering him. And what I don't understand, and I know this is almost difficult to say because he did fight valiantly, and he made it a very competitive second set. But if you have a player who's compromised, if you have an Alexander Zverev, he's not confident. He can't serve past 126. He's averaging under 120. He's usually up around 130. Why is he playing? It's a team event. You have a bench full of guys. Why is Zverev out there playing in that situation when there are options? I mean, again, if this was the U.S. Open, this wouldn't even enter the conversation. All right, like, good job. You have a little injury. He looked fine, by the way, during the points. It was really just the serve where he was off speed, off his regular pace. But I don't know if that's the case. It's just hard for me to understand why he was even out there. But those were my big takeaways. But I'm going to kind of pick Joel and Amy's brain on 3 and kind of get their perspectives. They were, you know, obviously live in San Francisco, and I'm sure they'll have a lot to say, and we'll go more in depth in terms of the actual tennis that we witnessed. So look out for that. But until then, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.